In 2017, really quick, cloud and technology, what I like to call business continuity initiatives. So cloud, again, is yesterday's news. We can host, we do colo, we do a lot of hardware as a service offerings on the bare metal and virtualized side, namely VMware and Hyper-V. But in terms of some technology initiatives, I'm really trying to push our marketing and sales team to focus on this year for the enterprise is basically the problems that I've seen quite heavily with my one-on-one conversations with companies, as well as just the market research that I'm responsible for doing here at Wowrack. And obviously that's DRaaS. So these are terms that a lot of you guys already know, and maybe some of you guys know a heck of a lot better than me. But in terms of business continuity, storage is part of that, but at enterprise level RPTO and being able to restore data and recover data on demand and being able to piecemeal certain applications and be able to partition it the way you need, yet not compromising your high availability needs, your redundancy, your regulatory adherences. Those are things that our team, and we have many engineers and system admins in our team, as you can imagine, who are in charge of building this alongside myself properly, ad hoc, custom for a company like you. Amazon and Azure are the best in terms of multi-tenant public cloud. They are the best, they're the biggest. What I like to say is we're just different because we're more of a hybrid IaaS. Those larger companies don't build custom architectures in the cloud for companies. They have their default packages, small, medium, large. You pay, they don't say, hey Kevin, Silicon Mechanics, I'm going to build you just for Silicon Mechanics. Amazon is just too big for that. So our value add is what I'm going to show you here in a bit, but more importantly, the ability to customize the architecture for your given organization to meet TCO and ROI requirements. Interoperability. This is a huge part of the future, as you guys already know, but I believe it's going to be even a bigger push for companies now that the familiarity of what this word even means now is going to be really taken into launch in 2017. So right now, Wowrack has the ability to help companies migrate their data using so many third-party tools, but we also have a software-defined layer 2 transport virtual connection to Amazon and Azure and Google Compute Fabric. So if you have an organization, then you're concerned, Ed, I like your solution, and I think you guys can save us some money, but everything is in Amazon, and I don't want to move everything from Amazon. It's just going to take too much time to move everything from there. That's okay. I'm not looking for organizations to move everything from one place to another, because most times that's not the right way to approach it. With our layer 2 transport, we have on-demand connectivity like a VM, except it's a virtual cross-connect from 1 to 10 to 100 gigs. You only pay per use. There's no setup fees. You can pay daily, monthly, incrementally. It's amazing. And if you want to have data migration from Amazon or Azure to Wowrack, go back and have vendor lock-in prevention, we have now the ability to offer that to our clients on demand. So heck, I'm confident you'll like working with us, but even if you don't, we actually give you guys a way out of Wowrack and save you guys money doing that. Professional services, we have a managed services offering. A lot of you guys already know this. Some of you guys are already utilizing it now. We have retainers, we have a la carte, on-demand, hourly rates, but this professional services side has grown quite a bit. Before, we used to only sell it as a packaged deal. We used to provide system admin support on-premise, but then they had to replicate or do some kind of hosting solution in one of our data centers globally. Now we actually offer it as a standalone service internally with our own team. So if you're looking for any type of managed professional services, i.e. tier 1 cabling, it could be tier 3 application infrastructure support, it could be just higher level network config, network security config, anything of that nature, we can now provide that to make your life easier. You guys here are very smart. Many of you guys are probably even smarter than me, and you guys have a lot on your plate. Our job is to just simply take that headache off your plate when you need it on demand. Okay? That's really the core premise of what we're trying to build. And security, which is why you're here. I mean, security is a huge problem, is a huge issue, okay? And security kind of overlaps with some of these other points, but this is really going to be the meat of our conversation today. We do a lot of different security measures internally. In fact, Wowrack, we just installed a new Juniper MX480 edge and border routers gateway system in our data center. And we also launched, going from a homegrown DDoS network mitigation plan to more of a service provider enterprise Carrero DDoS mitigation software enterprise package. So we are doing things constantly in our own network to improve services to existing customers, to improve for people that are looking to join Wowrack, and just growing our skill set. Right now we're Cisco. We still use Cisco quite a bit as our primary expertise area, but now we're starting to slowly migrate to the Juniper route as we speak. In terms of global presence, this is kind of cool actually. Okay, Seattle, we have a data center in Seattle, we have Dallas, Texas, Buffalo. I'm going to slide through this so I give Bryce enough time to talk. And we have a huge presence in Southeast Asia. So in short, anything that we can offer in our headquarters in Seattle, Washington, which is in Sabi campus. We have a data center that we own and operate there. And we also have a facility out in the Weston building, although we do not own that space. The one in Colo, Seattle, Sabi is owned and operated by us solely. We can offer any of those services in Seattle to Dallas, replicate to Buffalo, or Indonesia, Singapore, and Hong Kong. We have about 60 employees full-time in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, that manages the PAC Rim. We, in Seattle, manages the US properties. And these are some of the lists of some customers that we work with in terms of demographic and size. As you can see, they're all across the board. High availability, deeply database-driven application customers, people who do a lot of SaaS-based products, public sector, large electronic international organizations, to say the least. I'm going to turn it over to Bryce now. We are going to try to leave a few minutes for questions and answers. If we don't have time, please do reach us at the end of the theater or during the intermission break. We do want to be able to touch and talk to you one-on-one if you would be so kind to allow us to do that. And right now I'd like to turn the mic over to Bryce Matsuoka.
So in the interest of time, I'm going to skip the intro slide. I want to talk a little bit about what's in store for 2017 in cybersecurity, which is a topic we're here to talk about. And basically, you'll see the first three bullets are all talking about ransomware. Undoubtedly, you've heard about ransomware. If you haven't, it's basically a way of locking up your data. All of a sudden, you can't access any of your data, and then people come out and say, pay us within 10 days in something called bitcoins. And bitcoins is this nebulous type of monetary function where it can't be traced. And there are areas and places you can go to buy bitcoins today. So that's the whole premise. They're basically ransoming your own data back to you. You're hoping you don't have very good backups and a way to recover from this. But I digress. So ransomware is targeting HR departments. Why, you might say? Well, emails that come from unsolicited people may be in the form of resume. So HR departments can be opening those resumes and getting virus or ransomware on their systems, malware. So that's one target that's increasing in 2017. Morphing into ransom worms, what this means is ransomware tends to act very quickly. And what that means is they want to encrypt as much data as possible, as fast as they possibly can. So the worm effect is coming in through a network type of a worm where they're infiltrating and they're gathering or harvesting data. It could be PII data, personal identifiable information. It could be EPHI if you're medical related. It could be PCI, credit card, social security numbers. All that data is harvested first, and then they're going to hit you up with a ransom later. So it's kind of a more nefarious version of ransomware that's also coming in 2017. And then the third one, which might be scary, but there actually is in the dark web out there something called ransomware as a service, right? A disgruntled employee can hit their former employer. You just have to put in the name. Now, ransomware as a service wasn't very effective in 2016. It's a very, very basic type of ransomware. I don't want to say it would be easily defeated, but it wasn't the most sophisticated types of crypto locker and the other kinds of Locky and other types of crypto algorithms that were used. That's looking to change in 2017. So these are a few of the things you just need to be aware of as things change in 2017. The Internet of Things, I'm sure you've heard of some of these. People have heard about the cars, right, being overtaken by someone using a Wi-Fi connection, and this company wanted to prove that so they could sell their services to auto manufacturers. There's also an incident last year where an insulin pump was deemed hackable by the FDA, and they removed it from the market. So they're actually pulling these pumps out of people's bodies. Because you can kill someone, right? The too much or too little medication going into your system can kill you. So what's coming out now is the NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, has come out with formal requirements for the manufacturers of these devices to make sure there's protection built in so they can't be hacked. And this is kind of charge that caused a lot of issues coming out with the Internet of Things. So be aware of that happening in 2017. Critical infrastructure, Some of you may or may not have known that 12 months ago in Ukraine, a nuclear power plant was attacked and infiltrated. Now, fortunately, they had a different area of control for the nuclear power plant rods and such, so they didn't actually get into where they could overcome and take control of the power plant. But these things are happening on a regular basis. Right? This is not so they infiltrated the part that was safe, right? But they were still infiltrated. So those are things that are continuing to happen, continue to make the news in 2017. And then the DDoS, and Ed alluded to this a little bit, there was a big happening at the end of, or to the middle and the end of October, in which a large DDoS attack took down pretty much on the East Coast on a Friday morning. You guys may have heard of that or not. But HHS and OCR, or the Office of Civil Record, they govern medical, and they're issuing new standards of protection because they're concerned this is going to hit hospitals, this is going to hit medical clinics, and doctors' offices. So this is another concern of where we're going in 2017. So how do you protect yourself, right? That's a $95 question. This is a sheet in which we'll tell you more about, and I want to talk briefly about it. It's a little bit difficult to read, but starting in the upper left-hand corner about the spam email, it's much more than just spamming email. It's a way of how do you get that data and then encrypt it. So for example, you can protect your email in a number of different ways. One of the ways to do that is to actually encapsulate the data as it comes out. So if you're sending like a social security number between employees, that email, there's software now that we can provide that will detect that social security number and encrypt it, store it in an encrypted database automatically. So the employees don't really have to do anything. The data is still protected and encrypted, so you're not losing it to nefarious entities. From the password standpoint, everybody knows passwords, exclamation points and capital letters and numbers. The key thing right now is a number of characters in the passwords, right? So 12 plus is good, 18 is better. And the way you come up with that is like, Mary had a little lamb that fleeces the white snow. Don't use that because that's kind of a hackneyed phrase now, but those are the directions that people are heading with phrases instead of the, I put a 0 here instead of an O and an exclamation card instead of a 1. No more of that, the hieroglyphics there. But really what passwords is about your policies. How are you handling security? How are you managing all the different pieces like access management, right? Who has access to the data? Who has access to a location in your building? Those are the types of things that issues, right? Windows operating system, Mac to some extent. Linux is now the next target of what the exploits are targeting. There's also application software. You've heard about Adobe, right, and the issues they've had over the years. And then finally, the middleware layer, right, the middleware layer, the Java and others that have been exploited in the past. But this goes more than just this. This is really about updates for all of your software and how are you managing that on a regular basis. It used to be, companies would say, well, we want to be N-1 or N-2. But keeping current allows you to make sure that your security is more structured and safer. Coming down to the advanced security box, what that really refers to is something called intrusion detection, which is actually detecting nefarious things happening on your network as well as on your endpoints. So those are the two places we look to help secure. One is on the network and one is on the actual endpoints. And when you talk about the endpoints, you're talking antivirus. And there's new antivirus software coming out that's looking at it from a behavior standpoint instead of a signature. Let me repeat that, it's behavior instead of signature. You can imagine one piece specific signature can be changed very easily to just like a file name. The behavior doesn't change. The behavior of the malware stays the same. So we actually have an example. We shared a video, if you're interested, it's 5 minutes, in which we change an actual ransomware signature. None of the antivirus software catches it, except for the one that we're using, we prescribe to. Now, in conjunction with that, from an endpoint, is coming across to the training. You have to have security training that goes along with the endpoint. The antivirus is not sufficient. And that looks at things like how are people being trained? How are they improving? How can you track that? We've got tremendous relationships here, partners that we provide that can help you in this sense as well for pennies on a dollar. Coming down to the managed firewall piece, this again is about intrusion protection. Think about the dome covering the castle, as well as the intrusion detection, which is finding the infiltrators before they actually get in and blow something up. Encryption is I think, fairly standard. It's encryption of things that are at rest as well as in transit, and making sure that that's covered, especially if you're in a highly regulated industry. And then finally, the backup. So even though we now have this antivirus software that looks at behaviors and that can actually roll back, so it can actually detect when a virus comes in and attacks your network and roll back to that point in time, it doesn't mean you don't need backups. A good, sound backup recovery strategy is critical, and you guys know this if you're in IT, is critical to your success for anything, including business continuity. So with that, I want to turn this over back to Ed to talk a little bit about backup and DRAS.
Thank you, Bryce. So I just wanted to allude really quick on the backup. And don't worry, I know Bryce is awesome. He'll be back here in 10 seconds. But as Bryce alluded to, everything here that you see, we have a lot of agnostic solutions, third party, that we use or build internally to provide services within all these different tiles. But in terms of the backup, I mentioned we do a lot of RPTO or recovery point time objectives, enterprise level DRAS architecture. We design, we architect, we deploy, and we manage if the organization chooses to have us support it. If you want to just manage it internally, but get all the resources from Wowrack in the beginning, God bless you, not a problem. We want to give companies the flexibility to choose. But in terms of our backup, we use a lot of different solutions. I mentioned we're primarily a VMware and Hyper-V shop, but we do a lot of Hyper-V clustering, Hyper-V replica when it comes to DRAS, a lot of data protection manager or DPM. We also do a lot of Veeam management and endpoint managed support. We also provide Veeam licenses month to month, as well as Microsoft SPLA licenses month to month. So in terms of software value, that's kind of our core, although we're more of an infrastructure-based organization. We also use a third-party company called Acronis, which is like S3 Amazon. So if you're looking at multi-tenant storage, we do have a backup solution there, but we need to tie in another maybe SAN-based replica or technology to provide more of the recovery process, whether it be 5-minute RPTOs or 1 hour or 2 hours. We can engineer that specifically for the given organization, and we use several different technologies to be able to perform that. In terms of our backup, we also do a lot of Nimble, NetApp, EqualLogic, dedicated private SAN. So if you're looking to provide hardware as a service or to obtain that from a company like a Wowrack, we can do that. We also have partners like a Silicon Mechanics, for example, that we also can build proprietary hardware storage, and we can rent that and license it to you on a month-to-month basis versus having to buy it as a CapEx, right? So there's a lot of different ways we can spin these partnerships. In terms of free assessment, everyone that's here gets a free assessment of your network as well as your DRAS plan. So if you need someone to help map out a DRAS strategy or to just go over certain scenarios of what it takes to be able to find the appropriate recovery point time objective for your organization, we're happy to do that, whether it's 1 hour, 10 hours, we don't charge, there's no obligation to buy. At the end of the day, if you just want to pick our brain, we're happy to do that for you. Thank you very much. And then with this, I also have Rublin, who's going to be able to pass out this actual sheet. And the reason why is because I wanted to conduct a quick survey here. And there's going to be pens passed out to you as well when Rublin passes the sheet out. Please, as you can see, there's little boxes in each of these tiles. Just number in order of priority for 2017 initiatives or goals for your company. 1, 2, and 3. If cybersecurity is, or if a DRAS or backup is 1, just put 1 by the white box, 2 and 3. And then fill out your name on the bottom while you listen to the rest of the deck, and we'll go ahead and collect them at the end of the presentation. So back to Bryce.
We got a lot going on, guys, thanks. So how do you get started? And we're like 5 minutes out from being done here, okay? So just want to let you know, trend check very, very quick. So here are 3 steps to really protect your business. Some type of a threat assessment, some type of security risk assessment. These are the things that you really want to look at. What are the vulnerabilities that you have, and what business risks are they attached to? So understanding your business risk is critical when looking at security. It's not just a matter of one and done. Okay, this isn't something that we can just say, okay, we're comfortable now, we're going to go off. Because let me tell you, the bad guys are hitting you up and continually hitting you up. They're not going to stop until they get in. So this is really key is getting that threat assessment done. Step 2 is developing an action plan, implementation. What actions are you going to take? How are you going to prevent these? Are you going to be, what? So the key really that I face in talking with clients and working with you guys is how much security is enough? What is sufficient? And what is the balance between dollars spent and security achieved? Okay, that's really what we're trying to get at. What is the balance? Because there is a balance of what you specifically need for your particular company and your needs. So that's what we try to do here. And the action plan implementation obviously is a key piece of that. And then from an ongoing standpoint, comprehensive monitoring. What's happening in that? How are you doing that? Again, is it sufficient? Is it not? How can we help? How can we drive solutions here that makes a difference for your business?